I call Claire Curran.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I suppose, Mr. Speaker, that it's an indication on the quality of the debate from across the House tonight is an indication of the half-hearted, drop-in-the-bucket, lacklustre piece of legislation that we've got before us in the House tonight, because of the inability of the National Party speakers to actually get up and make a coherent, logical, reasoned, measured argument in its favour. Instead, they've resorted to hyperbole and idiotic, illogical arguments to pad out their thin speaking notes. They can't even muster a strong argument around it. Mr. Speaker, Labor is supporting this bill to select committee because it believes that this is a significant issue, and because we want to have the debate at a select committee in a measured, logical, reasoned way, and enable the discussion with submitters about what would improve this piece of legislation, so that when it comes back to the House, it actually will be a much better bill than the piece of legislation put before us tonight. You could drive a truck through this bill, Mr. Speaker, and I think that with the loopholes that it contains, and it's an example of the many pieces of legislation that this government puts up, which are the government needs to be seen to be doing something, and here's a half-hearted, lacklustre approach to it that we don't really want to make too much difference to, but we want to be able to say that we're doing something about this particular issue, and that's what we've got with this legislation. And unfortunately, but what we do hope is that when it gets to select committee, that we can tease out some of the issues, particularly the issues which I'm about to touch on. The two main issues are around the revenue estimate, which is the $5 million revenue estimate, which is what we're saying is that this has been rushed and it's ill-conceived, and that it actually isn't going to deliver a great deal back. And what we want to tease out what the IRD has estimated, which is the new Bright Line test is only going to raise just $5 million a year in additional tax revenue. And because what the IRD said about this bill was really expressed some real concerns, and when you take into account that the Treasury figures for the total tax revenue last year was $61.5 billion, $5 million is really just a drop in the bucket. And you can't argue with that, not you, Mr. Speaker, but the members across the House cannot argue with that. And in the regulatory impact statement, the official said that additional $5 million a year revenue estimate was based on a number of behavioural assumptions, now which are inherently difficult to quantify, such as the number of sales that could be delayed in order to exceed the 2-year holding period. And I know other members have canvassed those issues. That is one of the most significant problems with the bill. It does need to be, and when the IRD is saying that, then it really does need to be looked at further. The other issue I just want to touch on is really is the depth of investigation or the lack of depth of investigation that has gone into the development of this bill. The Prime Minister himself said that he actually suggested this new Bright Line tax 4 or 5 years ago, but they'd only recently come round to the idea. And the Revenue Minister said that it had only been a month in the works. Now, when you put a piece of legislation like this to the House, you would have thought that there had been a great deal of work gone into it. There clearly is a difference in opinion about what that work, the depth of that work has been, and clearly there needs to be some more work done. Hopefully that can be done at the select committee stage, which is going to be pretty important. And So Labor, as I said, Labor does support this to Select Committee. We support measures that will cut property speculation, and that's where the logical and measured debate needs to be around what those measures, the best measures can be, not the hyperbole that is being delivered by the opposite members of the House.
Mr. Speaker.
I call Andrew Bailey.
Thank you, Mr.